let's get this started and I'll move over. All right, so let's get started. First thing that we want to do is probably measure and map out a couple of points on the face here to start. Let's see. Got till about here on the camera. That's pretty much the top of my pad. And about here. Okay, so I can use my whole pad. All right, so I'm going to try to figure out where a couple of points on the face are. Probably like the hairline, the sort of middle of the face, right where the top of the nose is, and the chin. Try to kind of map those first so that everything fits on here. Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to sight this by holding this out in front of me and measuring. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay, so I'm going to kind of start marking things. I'm going to put the chin about here. And then put the middle of the face probably about here. Let's shoot for that. Top here. Hair about here, I think. All right, so let's start with our kind of Loomis head, I guess, to start. So we want to have a circle. I want this to be about the halfway point, so I'm going to start sketching that in. Loomis heads are probably most useful for kind of quick sketches and might not be necessarily super appropriate for this portrait, but we're going to use the same kind of methodology that we've been using throughout. So here's our circle. We're going to chop off the sides here. And halfway there is going to be about where our eye line is. Then we're going to go about, so I've got my chin about here, so we're going to go about halfway down. That's where the nose is going to be. I'll move that up a little bit. Let's kind of measure halves of the head. 1 and 2. So that's about right. Okay. So maybe the base of the nose about here, and the lips about here. All right. So I'm going to go in and kind of start by maybe defining the basic face structure. So we'll start with kind of bigger stuff. So let's start with this chin line here. So we're going to look at this middle segment here. I'm holding my pencil like this. I'm using the side of my pencil. I'm just kind of wiping my graphite onto the paper. I'm not really drawing harsh lines. I'm trying to keep it real soft, especially to start. So we've got kind of a middle segment to the chin, and then we've got 2 more on each side. So our first angle kind of comes like this. Our second angle comes up a little bit, kind of like that. I think that's fairly accurate. Same thing on the other side, pretty symmetrical. Keep this kind of light and loose to start. All right, now let's kind of start mapping out. Oh, I should do this the right way. I'll take the neck down from here. So the neck kind of connects at the ears and then comes in a little bit, and then comes out about here. That's about right tilt to the head here for some reason. Alright, now I'm going to go in and get the sort of brow lines. The brows come up a little bit here, just kind of blocking them in. Just going to kind of indicate where everything goes before I start the lay-in section. So I'm just going to kind of just use some small indications of where everything's going to be to map it out first. Alright, so that's going to be kind of where my nose is positioned. Lip here. Across here. And the hairline's going to be about here. Comes down here. Alright, now I want to kind of look at what I've got so far and make adjustments as necessary. Maybe that hairline's a little higher. So I just kind of want like really basic indications of where all the pieces are going to go to start us off. I feel like the head's a little thinner, so I'm maybe going to pull this in a little bit. Got some angle coming back in this way. Only on this side, really. Alright. So let's start the lay-in. So I'm going to start with the left eye over here. I should actually probably add an ear first. The ear's going to go from about where the bottom of the nose is. So he's got like a little bit of curve maybe to that nose line. So it's going to be a little higher than the bottom of the nose, but it's about where the bottom of the nose is, and it goes up to about where the top of the eye is, or the eyebrow. So it goes up to about here. Sketch that in. Quiet kitten. Alright. So now we'll start the lay-in. Let's look at the left eye here. So, got kind of two sections to the brow. We've got shape coming down this way, like that, and then kind of a thinner section going off this direction. About like that. Now we'll go down to the eye section. So we've got, let's actually start getting the eyelid. So to space out the eyes, we want to have about one eye width right here. So then we want to go out that same distance about to here, and then same distance about to here. And then we can have up to an eye width on the sides, but a lot of times it'll be a little smaller than that. Alright, so now that we've got those spaced out, we want to leave plenty of room between the eyebrow and where we draw the lid, because we've got the fold of the eyelid in there. And we want to look at this corner of the eye relative to this corner. And it looks like it drops down a little bit. Got kind of an angle like this through the center of the eye. So we want to mark those two corners. Mark here, mark right here. And now we want to draw the top of the eye. So we want to split the top eyelid into three sections. We've got one rises about this angle. Then we've got, it goes to probably about halfway, pretty close. We've got one that drops down, and then one that comes down a little sharper. On the bottom, we've got a curve that comes down this way, and then we come over this way. We've got that sort of tear duct area right here. So these are a little smaller than we did the Proco ones, maybe. A little smaller than I did them, but same sort of idea. Okay. And that's kind of touching the iris. Let's see. The iris goes all the way down there. All right, next we've got kind of a crease underneath here. And a harder crease up on the top. Kind of goes like this. This kind of matches the curvature of the eye until it gets to about here, and then it gets a little thicker, just slightly, and curves the rest of the way around. All right. All right, now we're going to move over. Remember, we've got this little keystone shape here. Kind of block that in. All right, now we'll do the other eye. So let's look at the line between the eyebrows. There's a little bit of a slant here, so this one's a little bit lower, I think. Got this shape here. Okay, and here's our corner here. So this is a little, let me look at the line straight through the eyes. There's a little bit of an angle. So I think this one's a little bit lower here. And then it looks about level on the other side. So for this one, we're going to break it into 3 angles again. We're going to go up fairly sharply, about there. And we're going to go over a little bit. And that curve sort of blends into the final curve that comes over like this. Okay. Now this one comes over at this angle. Cool overlapping in the eye right there. All right, and then the crease under here comes up to here, goes over, staying pretty tight to the eye. Got another shadow under here. All right. We're still okay. All right. This looks like it comes up a little harder right there. There we go. Now let's move down into the nose. So for our nose here, I'm going to kind of define my borders. So this left side of the nose, you can see, is the light side. It's in the light. That's why it's called the light side. And this side's the dark side. So I can make darker marks on my dark side. I need to be gentle on my light side. So let's kind of look at these little C shapes that are on the outside here. Let's try to sketch those in. Looks like it comes up high. Then let's look at that little middle shape. Kind of comes up like this on both sides. Nostrils. Mostly downturned. So I'm just laying in too. I shouldn't get too into this. Get too much shade going. Okay, that looks about right. Comes up like this. Ball of the nose looks kind of narrow. Like that shape there. Yeah. Just keep this lay-in pretty simple. Do the shading later. Alright, so there's my nose shape. Got philtrum here. Pretty pronounced. Almost comes to a point there. Upper lip. So let's actually map out our lip corners first. So let's look at the angle from the center of the nose to the lip corner. Kind of like this. So I think the lip corner is like right out here. This is going to be, mouth's going to be like probably a little wider than the nose, like maybe 2 eye widths. The nose is going to be 1 eye width. If I go like straight up from the nose, it should pretty much be the same space as between the eyes. Okay. So the mouth's going to be about there. So now I can draw sort of the expression line here. Come up, down in the middle. It's going to make kind of a stretched out M, basically. So let's see. I remember from yesterday, we got kind of a center keystone-ish shape, or I guess it's like a heart shape, he said, here, right? I've got ceiling friends on my ceiling right now. Not on my ceiling, on my roof. Roof friends. Sounds like something big. And then we'll sketch in the bottom edge of this. And so as I work from the eyes outward, I can also kind of reposition where things are. Like if I start working towards the chin, and it turns out the chin wasn't in the right place, I can probably move it at this point. But I do want to plan out where everything is in the beginning, just so I don't end up like running off my paper completely. All right, so lay the rest of that in. What the heck is it doing on my roof? Maybe a bird? I'm not sure. I'm a little scared, you guys. All right. Let's get those ears. Ears are a little bit tricky. We haven't done the Proco video on them yet, but that's okay. So here is the basic ear shape, right? Kind of comes out like this. All we really need to worry about, here's the hair covering it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All we really need to worry about is drawing a couple of shadow shapes in here. One of them's going to look like this. Here. And come to a little point right here. And one's going to look like kind of a almost triangle. We'll just shade those in later, and it'll be fine. Trust me. Trust me. And on the other side here, got the hair coming down to back here. Got the ear shape. This seems like it's sticking out a little bit more here, this kind of corner. So then we got a little pocket of shadow right here, big pocket coming up here, and then second sort of shadow coming up this way. All right, so I should give him some kind of shoulders to ground him a little bit, but I don't need a lot of detail. That's fine. All right, and let's do the hair. So the hair, we're going to keep simple. We're not going to worry too much about today, but we want to kind of block it in chunks. Okay, so we've got like a plane of hair right here, kind of moving backwards. We've got a whole nother curved area of hair right here, kind of curving around. And then this whole thing goes like this. There are no words to describe what's happening up here in this hair. Just can't do it for you guys. I'm sorry. My words fail. I've got kind of another plane of hair coming back here. Looks like it goes over to the right like this, but got some more bangs in the front. Doing this deal. I see what you're doing. There. And then this will be where we just have some fun with the watercolors later. Now, so I think that's pretty well blocked in. All right, now we're going to add our shadows, right? So I'm going to move back over to my left eye here. Actually, I'll start with the ear. So now I'm going to shade this in. So that'll be shadow, that'll be shadow. There's a little shadow down here. The hair, I'm going to shade in a little bit. Just this dark kind of V shape here. Okay. This I'll shade in. Got a little shadow that kind of comes in here, and here. That goes all the way over, and then kind of comes up like this. Shade that. Shade this shadow in. Then I kind of have to decide how much of that I want. I think that's probably enough for the first pass. Got some highlight stuff happening up here that I want to save. I'm going to kind of, just for now, kind of block in where those highlights are. I don't have to be super specific. Just make sure I at least protect the area they're in. Got a little shadow under here, but I think I'm going to save that till later. Let's get in here. Got some shadow that curves down this way on the nostril. A little shadow here on the philtrum. Like you said in the video, the philtrum's reversed, so the shadow side and the light sides are reversed. And then, looks like I got a shadow that goes all the way around the nostril here. So I might darken that in just to keep it separate. But I'm going to shade in that shadow around the nostril. Got a lot of shadow in here. I'm trying to decide if I want to shade this whole side of the face. I think I do. let's get that eye first. Let's get that eye first. A little bit of highlight here. So again, I'm not going to be too specific. I'm just going to draw a big box to make sure there's plenty of room for that highlight later. And later I'll tighten it up and narrow it down a little bit. A little shadow there. Now let's see what this shadow shape looks like. It comes up and connects to the eyebrow here. Erase that keystone because it's distracting me. It's up and connects to the eyebrow here, and then it comes this way. So it goes down in this area, and then curves around here, sort of. So yeah, I'm going to shade all that in. It's actually like pretty light on this eyelid on this side, but then it gets dark over here. So we've got a little shadow on this side. We'll shade the eye a little bit later, but not right now. Got some shadow here. Actually, I think that kind of extends down into the neck shadow. So I think I'm going to shade all that. Then you've got kind of a highlighted tendon here that comes up. Then we'll shade all the rest of that, I think. Probably all the way over to the neck. Missing likeness in the eyes, but I'll go back and get that. Alright, so I think that's our basic shadow areas. We still need to get that other ear though. Shadow, 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 all that. Alright, so now we're going to go in and kind of feature by feature really examine and define and get the other tones. I should have probably shaded the lips here. Let's get that. So this is going to be in shadow here. This half of the lip. There's going to be a shadow that curves around the lip like this. We'll just sharpen it up later. Alright, so now we want to go back in and get kind of a close likeness and tighten everything up. So we want to go into like all of our tones now. So we want to add deeper shadows and then add the sort of quarter tones. So I'm going to get back in here. I'm really going to try to look at what I'm doing again. Try to find exactly how this eye is shaped. So I think there's something I'm missing from this eye that I need for a good likeness. Now the eyelashes can kind of use little lines on them. I think it's right here. His eye's a little bit different. So for my iris here, I'm going to have kind of a thicker dark line around the outside. So the pigment's usually a little darker there. And then inside here, comes up here around that highlight. There we go. The lower lid is going to have just a very subtle sort of light to it. And then you're going to have a highlight on top of the lid. So I'm going to have just a subtle line where the lid touches the eye, then a little bit of space for the highlight on top of the lid, and then we'll have some lashes. You can draw individual lashes out if you go really softly, but you don't want to get like spider legs. So sometimes it's better to just use kind of a line. Alright, so here, there's a little more darkness there. Alright, so I'm going to go a little darker on my shading here. And now I'm going to add those eyebrows in. Alright, so now I'll move on to the nose here. Got a little bit of shadow coming this way. A little bit kind of wrapping up onto that nose. There's a little bit of tone right here. Just a little bit. Some here. A little bit. And defining that cheekbone slightly. Alright, now I'm going to move on to the nose. Got a little pocket of shadow right here. It's all kind of looks like this, then wraps around this way. Got a little bit of a highlight right here on the nose. So the bridge of the nose, kind of right through here, has a pretty strong highlight. Keystone shape here is a little bit of shadow on it. That was too much. Soften that up a little bit. Let's go back in here and work. Alright, so your goal for the day is going to be to work through all of these features and finish tightening them up. You've got another 45 minutes of time to work on that. And I want you to get your sketch as complete as possible before Thursday. We're going to move on with this on Thursday. So you can go asynchronous now if you want. I'm going to keep working on this, so if you want to work with me, if that's helpful for you, you're welcome to do that. If you want to work on your own, that's fine too. Alright, so this kind of folds under, so I kind of want this pronounced and sticking out. And then, let's see, eyebrows. Got a really dark patch that kind of comes down like this, kind of to a point right here. Kind of makes this shape. And then the rest of the eyebrows are a little bit lighter. So kind of come up to here, and then come down to a point. Kind of curves around the eye socket. to make this shadow a little bit darker now. Just a little bit though, because I want to leave it lighter than the eyebrows there. Comes around this way. I feel like his nose needs to drop a little bit. Let's see. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go back in, look at this line again, and darken that up a little bit. I want to really pay attention in my reference image and try to get everything as accurate as possible. So the line kind of thickens up here, so I want to vary my line quality a little bit. So that's one of the keys we want to focus on, is varying the line quality a little bit. Rather than drawing lines, we want to think about drawing like long shapes. So that means the line quality is going to be varied a little bit. Go a little darker on the outside of the eye here. Keep those highlights. There we go. Up there. Yeah, that's sort of, this shadow transitions into this one. There's almost a shadow that kind of goes up like this. So it looks like there's a shadow that kind of comes up like this along that line. And then got a little bit lighter right here. And through this area, that's all a little bit lighter. But probably still deserves some tone. Go a little darker with most of this here. And this will have just a little bit of tone on it. Let's try to straighten up that nose a little bit. I think it got a little crooked. It's almost a gradient coming out from behind this nostril here. I need to pull a little bit out with my eraser there. So a little more flare like that. Here. Kind of soften all this up, I think. this is a little bit like that. I got some highlight coming down. This is all shadow here. Just a little bit of highlight on the nostril there. That looks pretty good. Right there. Actually, I can kind of see right where the nose attaches. Pretty pronounced. There we go. Let's move down to the lips. So we've got kind of this pocket here. Everything's kind of tucked in on the side. And that kind of transitions to a sort of light shadow right here. The expression line kind of softer on this side. It's like kind of dark in some areas and then kind of softens in some areas, so we want to have a little bit of variation to our line quality there. Come through here. Over and down. Curls up a little bit. I don't really see as much of an indentation over there. Pretty hard linear shadow underneath the bottom lip. And then we've got some shadow that curves around like this. Some shadow that curves around like this. When it gets pretty light here, so I'm going to pull some of this out. Pull a little bit of this out. Upper lip, we've got kind of a shadow along the edge here, and then it softens out. And then this side is shadow. It actually looks like kind of a gradient, like it starts darkest over here, and then grades out over this direction. Got a little bit of shadow here. Kind of defining those cheekbones. A little bit of shadow here. Maybe a little more edge here. Bring that jawline up a little bit there. And make this underneath shadow a little bit stronger. Stand up and look at it. This needs to be more like that. More neutral expression. This has got some tension in it that's not really there. Alright, now let's work on that hair a little bit. So I see some tone coming from over there. That's here. This is a mess. Okay. There's some flying every which way here. That works. Big shadow in here. I think that's going to just about do it. So there we are. That's our first step. Get everything kind of sketched out and cleaned up as much as you can. The initial drawing is going to be a big part of the watercolor, so don't skimp on it just because it's not the final piece. Try to get it as accurate as you can. And probably do like another round going in and just trying to catch details and clean things up. But there's the basic idea.